All right, everyone. Welcome to my second video. Did the first one, and we had, well, hey, look, I counted out. Anyway, sorry about that. So, second video, we're going to talk about the iPad today. The iPad is a tablet computer made by Apple. It's a wonderful computing machine. Some people have replaced their laptops entirely with the iPad, and it's one of my favorite things in the whole world. I'm showing you a feed from my iPad right now. Just it's showing the user guide. This is a document. It's very very helpful. You can see there's several pages of stuff here. I'm not going to go into detail on any of this. I'm just showing you how much it has. But you can download this. I put the link down in the description. So if you want to read up on, if you have an iPad and you're trying to learn about it, my head's cut off again. Anyway, if you want to learn more about it, you can download this with the link from the description. Okay? So, here's our iPad. See, guy right here. That's what it looks like. Just thought I'd give you guys an inside look at what I'm doing. Okay, so the iPad is, like I said, it's a device built by Apple computers. And Apple, with their iOS devices, which the iPad is an iOS device, it runs iOS, which is their operating system. Their design on the operating system is to make things as simple as possible and without needed explanation as possible. I mean, I showed you that user guide, but it's really unnecessary to read it. You only really have to read it if you want to know as much as you possibly can about it. But it's pretty easy to see, oh, here's a bunch of icons. I just want to tap on any of these and it'll give me what it says it's going to give me. It's pretty simple and straightforward. And the best way to learn anything about, and this goes for computers in general, not just the iPad, but anything in general, push buttons. Don't be afraid to push buttons and screw things up, because when you screw it up, you understand how it works. That's how I've done it. I know a lot of people are scared to do that, especially if you're older and you're used to things the way they are, and you're just have them in a set way. You don't want it to break. But trust me, pushing buttons makes your world in the end. I mean, yeah, it may screw up things in the meantime, but it makes your world in the end. So I'm just going to go through each of the different apps on here. I won't go through the setup process because it's a little redundant. It'll explain what to do through the setup process in the setup process. So this is right after the setup process. I haven't really signed into anything. It's just flat, straight, wiped out iPad. All right, so I'm just going to go through each of these different features here. We'll skip FaceTime for now. I'll come back to that. FaceTime's that top one, top left. We'll go to the calendar, which is the next one down, okay? So you open up the calendar here. The calendar's great. One thing you need to know about Apple is that they have an ecosystem, and it's all synced over iCloud, but you can also use Google or Outlook. There's several different services that Apple use, and I'll go through that in a little while. But just know that everything that you put on here can sync to other computers or phones or to other tablets. So here we are. We got the calendar view, and we're looking at the day view, as you can see in the top there. It's highlighted. It says day. It's probably a little hard to read on this video, but it's on the left side. And I'll show you what it looks like in Mindscape mode in a second. You have the day, and then the second one that I've just selected. This is the week mode. You can tell my calendar is very empty because there's nothing on here. You can go to the month mode, and it shows you the whole month. And you can go to the year mode, which gives you a big old outline of the year. Now, when you're in year mode, you can tap on any of these days, and it'll zoom in on one of those days. So, like if I wanted to go to September 30th, see, I tapped on September 30th, and it's now on September 30th. So I'm going to tap on, so now, and it went back to month mode. If you want to add something in here, you can hit the plus button up in the corner. You can see where it's pointing in the corner. And brings up a little form for you to fill out. You can put in the title of your event, broadcast. So that's what I'm doing right now. The location, and just for the sake of this demo, I'm not going to show you my location. That would be silly. But you can put the location of where you want the event to occur. You can type it in, and it connects to Apple Maps and brings up suggested locations, or you can just put in an address, and it will do that. or you can just freeform it, write whatever you want. It won't have a location assigned to it, but it'll work. It'll just write it down for you so you can remember it. And then there's all day, so I can tell it to be an all-day event, so we can see that it starts on Sunday and ends on Sunday. So it only is one day. You can make it go longer. If I switch that off, then I got hours as well. So I can make it not an all-day event, but just an hourly event. You can set time zones and repeats. I'm just going over everything. But if you want more detail, you can comment, and I will tell you more about it. You can also attach URLs and notes to it, so you can write more information on it. So when you're looking at your calendar later, you can see it. So let's just, I'm just going to fill this out real quick. Well, I'm going to go to the day first. Hold on. Convenient thing, there's this little today button. I wish I had some way of like highlighting what I'm clicking on, but I can't really show you that. But down in the corner, in the bottom left corner, there's a today button. If you hit that button, it'll go right back to today. So now if I hit the plus button, now it's going to do it on the right day because it starts on the day that you're selected on. Broadcast. And we'll do it from 9 to 10, although it probably won't be that long. We'll see how long we go. You can put in the repeat. We'll do it every week just to show you that that works. You can end that repeat or not. And you can, and by default, it doesn't do an alert, but you can set the default in the settings to do something different. And so we'll do 5 minutes before, give me a nice last minute notice. And then I could type in some notes. Talk loud. And don't cut off head. Haha. And then I hit add. Then if we go into the week mode now. Oh, it didn't show up. How weird. Of course, in my demo, it decides it doesn't want to do what I want it to do. There we go. Oh, now it shows up. I don't know why, but it didn't show up right away. I guess it just needed a second to show up. So, sorry about the technical difficulties. So here we go. I'm looking at the week view, and you can see I put my broadcast event in there. So I can click on it, and you can see I got all my information there. And I can delete the event, or I can edit it. Brings up that same form, so I can edit it. So this calendar, you can send invitations to people, and you can set up different calendars, so you can have like, you can see, go back. It has, on my iPad, it has calendars. You can add additional calendars and change the colors of them, so you can have like a family calendar that you share with other people, or you can have the birthdays that are set in your contacts, so on and so forth. So that's the calendar. There's only one other functionality, and that's the search. I could easily search, oh look, broadcast. It's easy to find, but if you have a lot of events, this can be really handy. Alright, so now let's go to photos. Photos is great. Right now there are no photos or videos on my thing. But in iOS 8, and also with iOS 9 that's coming out in a few months, they've set up this thing called iCloud Photo Library. And I'll talk about that more with iCloud, but it basically lets you sync your library across multiple devices. But if all you have is this iPad, then you can just use this. To get anything in the photos, we're going to have to go to the camera. So I'm going to open up the camera and take a picture of my face. Location. Hi, everyone. Nice picture of me. And I click this little button. It takes a picture. There's lots of different modes. You can have a square picture, which is really just the same as photo, but it cuts off the top so that way you don't, so that way it looks like a square. You could do a panoramic, where I just hit the button and I can scroll across. I won't do it right now. I'm just kind of showing you overall. You can also do video. Now, there are lots of different versions of the iPad out there. So if you have an older version, it may not have best video. But honestly, I think all the supported versions that are out there, with actually all of them, all iPads except for the very first one, have a back camera. So yeah. And then they have a slow-mo video. This is really cool. You gotta try this if you have it. And a time-lapse video. And then they have a little marker down here in the corner. If you tap on that. You can tap on the pictures down in the right corner, and it shows you your pictures you've taken. Well, look at my lovely face. All right. So let's go back to photos, and I'll just show you kind of what happens. So since I took a picture, now it shows up in my photo library here. We'll start at the bottom here. There's photos, shared. With shared, you can set up shared photo albums with people. And then albums, which are your own albums that are on this device. As you can see, there's two of them here. One of them is recently deleted, and the other one is camera roll. I haven't deleted anything. When you delete something on when you delete a photo, it won't delete it. It will put it in the recently deleted folder, and then after some time, like 30 days, I think is what it is, it deletes whatever's in the recently deleted album. But the camera roll is the immediate, right after you've taken the picture, it will show up in the camera roll no matter what. If you go over to photos, though, photos is the entire timeline of everything in your photos library. Okay, you can see it says today up here. So this is everything that I've taken today. If you've taken multiple pictures over multiple times, you can zoom out by hitting this button up in the top left corner. It says collections now at the top. These are different collections. It will group it based on where it is and what time you've taken them. You can even go up to years, and you can see this is 2015. I don't have a lot in here right now, but if you have a lot of pictures, this is a really good way to get where you want to go. So you can go back in time and find where it is. So there's the picture. You can tap on any of these pictures and you zoom in on it. Okay, and oh, this is a good thing to talk about. So this button down here in the corner, there's a, oh, whoops. I wish I could show it to you. Maybe I can. Hold on one second. Oh yeah, that's it right there. I'm going to be tricky and show you what this thing is and just do this lifestyle here. Alright, this fascinating little icon here. See, this is some of the cool stuff you can do with your pictures. I'm being crazy and doing this live, but alright, so this little icon, it's down in the bottom left corner. Okay, this is across a lot of iOS. You'll see this all over the place. And this is the, it's called the share sheet, or the share button. It brings up the share sheet. So if I were to hit this button, it'll shrink it down and give me some options of how I can share it, or what I can do with it. And I'll go into this in more detail later. But that's what that button does, and I'll talk about it more once I've gotten through all these apps, because we got a few to go through. But you can select multiple pictures to do the share and share it that way. So let's go back here to my lovely face. So we'll start at the top. I told you about the back button up here that says moments right now. Let's go back to moments and then collections, then years. You have the date of this picture in the middle. I wish I could like point on it and show you, but I can't really do that. It's a little difficult. And then you have this little favorite button. Oh, I can highlight it there. See the little heart? It'll make an album for all of your favorited pictures, so you can get to them really quickly. So if you want to get to if you take a picture, you really like it, you don't have to dig through all of them. Hitting that favorite button will get it there. We'll skip the edit button because I'll show you that in a second. Down at the bottom, we have a little garbage can. I can hit the garbage can, and it'll prompt me and say, do you really want to delete this? I hit delete, and it'll go over to the deleted items folder, which I will dig it out real quick because I want to edit it. Recover. Okay. So, and then we have the edit button. Now, I'm not going to get into details on here, but suffice to say, there's some pretty simple tools here. You've got a magic wand down at the bottom. That's just like an automatic like adjustment to it. So if I hit that, it'll adjust the color and the lighting, try to make it look as nice as it can algorithmically do with the computer. You can hit the crop button, which allows you to rotate it, or resize it, or zoom in or out, or resize the frame of the picture, move it around. There's some preset sizes here in the corner. Just reset that. There's some different. I would have gotten a nicer picture than my ugly face to do this. I just took a picture right there. Should have gotten some pictures on here. Anyway, there's some different filters you can put on here, similar to Instagram if you ever heard of that. They have filters. That was kind of their thing when they first came out. And then you have your adjustments. There are 3 different types of adjustments. This is where you really get into the fine-tune editing. I'm not going to go into detail, but you can click on those. Like I said, push buttons, figure it out. It's really cool. All right, so you can hit done, and you can and it'll save all those things, all those edits that you made. So yeah, and with any of those pictures, when you zoom in, I just did that, but I didn't show you. You can actually, like, if I was showing you on my hand, oops, I'm trying to hold it and not push the button at the same time. You can pinch on the screen, and it will zoom out of the picture, which is really handy. I don't think you can do it after that, but just on the one picture, you can do that. Cool. And then you can also search in here, and it will. So you can search by time and location. I keep wanting to use my location, obviously, because this is brand spanking new, and I haven't told it not to everywhere. You could search any of these pictures, and I can say, well, I want to search in June. Hey, look, June, and it brings up all of my ones in June. So that's photos, very briefly. I already did camera, so let's move on to contacts. Now, contacts, if you have this set up with iCloud, which again I'll go into, this will sync over everything. Pretty much any app on here. If I say it syncs with iCloud, it'll do everywhere on a Mac. Some Windows, some of the things it does work with Windows. I think, not sure how it works right now because I haven't actually used a Windows computer for a while. But I could talk about that more and study it out and let you guys know more about it. But anyway, you can any contact you add in here will sync over everywhere if you have iCloud set up. Okay, so we don't have any contacts, so let's put a contact in here. I hit the little plus button up at the top. And I can add, it gives you a little form to fill out. So let's say we'll put in Joe Schmo here. Joe Schmo. He works for, you don't have to put in the company, but it's there. Like, this is the thing, is you can put whatever you want to in this form. They give you suggestions in the form, like first name, last name, company. But you don't have to put them all in there. You can put in what you want. They're pretty easygoing with these forms. So we can put in some company and it'll show up by his name. We can add a phone number, and so let's say, you know, I don't know what's a good phone number. 5456. I'm just making this up as I go. 555-1212. You know, he's just got some default phone number, and you can put a label on that phone number: home, work, iPhone. If you know he has an iPhone, you want to label it that way. You know, there's a bunch of things, and you can even add your own custom label there. Yes. I was not looking at my text messages. My wife is being really, really helpful to me, and I've just been ignoring her. Let me finish this, and then I'll address what she was talking about. You can also add an email, Joe Schmo at somesite.com. Really cool thing about this, though, just a little trick. If you hold down your finger on the period button when you're typing in an email, you can tell if you're typing in an email if there's a little the @ sign there. If you hold down your finger on the period button, it'll bring up a little quick entry, and you can pick one of these quick ones. I'll just do com. And you can add additional things like their address or their birthday. And if you add their birthday in here, they'll show up in the Calendars app when their birthday comes up. And you can add with or without the year, so that way you don't have to know their age, but you can know their birthday. Or you can add any other date that you want to, and that will show up as well. Like I said, push buttons, try to figure this out on your own because there's a lot to it. It's very intuitive, so if you start pushing buttons, you'll figure it out really quickly. So once we start making our contact here, Joe Schmo, we hit the done button. He shows up in the list here on the side, and we can see all of his different things. His birthday was on the 24th, and his anniversary was on the 25th. Happy guy. He got married the day after his birthday. Anyway. So there's that. Now I'm going to talk about what my wife was talking about. There are two ways to get back to the home screen. You got this nice little home button. On this iPad, it's the Touch ID button as well, but it's also the home button. Oh, hey, look, I turned you on your side. I'll do more of it on the side. I just haven't done it yet. Anyway, that home button, if you push on it once, goes back to the home screen. You can also set up gestures, and I think by default they're enabled. But if you, I'm going to pick this up here. If you pinch the screen with your whole hand, you can shrink down the app, and it goes back to the home screen. And I've been doing that pretty quickly, but I haven't really gone into too much detail because I'm just like, this is just what I always do. But I have a lovely wife in there who's just sending me some prompts to let me know what to keep telling you guys. All right, so now we got the clock, and all right, so the clock. We have 4 different settings on the clock. You've got the world clock, as you can see right here. I'm going to turn this on this side because I think you'll get more picture and you'll be able to read it better. You can add as many world clocks as you want, and they give you a bunch of suggestions here. Actually, I think these are the only ones you can do, but there's one for every time zone. So just add the one that fits with the time zone, and put it in. We'll put in Kairos here just to see it. And it's cool because it'll be black if it's nighttime there, and it'll be white if it's daytime. And you can see on the map, and it also even pulls up some weather for you there, which is kind of cool. And then you can always hit edit and take out the ones you don't want, or even change the weather to Celsius or Fahrenheit if you wanted to do that. There's an alarm setting, so you can hit the plus button to add a new alarm. Plus button always means add something new. It's a little difficult for some people sometimes because they just put like pictures on there and they don't label them, but they're trying to do that to make it as simple as possible. When you see a plus button, you think, oh, this adds something. When you see the little square with the arrow going out of it, you think, oh, I'm trying to send this out. And that's kind of the idea behind it. So don't get scared by the pictures. Push buttons. You learn what they do. You'll learn the vocabulary of those images, and it'll make sense to you. So these alarms, we can go through, and you can set an alarm for pretty much any time during the day. I have it set to 24 hours, so you can see it counts up to 24. You can repeat that anytime you want. This is very similar to the iPhone app as well. So if you have an iPhone, all these are very similar. Like the forms are almost identical. You just don't have as big of a screen. And you can pick a label for it. I usually don't because I'm lazy and I just say, hey, set this alarm. You can pick the sound for it. You can always order more sounds or just use the default ones. I don't know why you would buy a sound for your alarm. Spend your money on music you don't listen to. Don't spend it on that. You can do what you want, but you can buy one if you want to. But there's a ton of different chimes here that you can pick from, different tones. And you can set whether or not you want the snooze to go off. Once you set it on there, it will show up on this little mini calendar it makes, a little week view. Shows where the alarm's at, and you can actually move it around, which is kind of cool. And you can turn it on or off. You see it turns off there. And then we got the stopwatch. And you can just hit start, map. It's a basic stopwatch. If you don't know how to use a stopwatch, YouTube it. You're already here. So I'll go into the detail there. And a timer. Also, if you don't know how to use a timer, YouTube it, because I'm not going to explain it. It's pretty basic. You can pick the sound down here if you want to. But this is kind of cool, though, because it does fill up this little timer as it goes along. All right, back to the home screen. Okay, now let's talk about maps. So, maps are great. If you have an iPhone, you can get directions on it. Even if you have an iPad, you can get directions on it as long as it can find its location and have internet throughout the entire directions. Because if it's just an iPad with Wi-Fi, it can't really do that without like something it can tether to while you're driving around. At first, Apple Maps weren't that great. So you'll probably hear on the internet or something else, hey, those Apple Maps, you should use Google Maps because Google Maps is so much better. While the Google Maps are probably better, I'm not going to dispute that. That's not why I'm here. I'm here to show you how to use your iPad, and I'm just showing you the basic apps on here. And Apple's maps have gotten a lot better since they were first released. They've been working hard on them, and they're continuing to work hard on them. But you can pinch to zoom, if you see on my finger. Lots of pinching gestures on the iPad. So if you think, I want to get closer to it, you can always widen your fingers and it zooms in more. And pinch them and it zooms in or zooms out. But let's see here. We'll just look at New York or something. So we'll just pinch into New York, and you can get really close, and you can see all the streets. There are 3 different views here. You hit the little I button in the corner to go switch between the views. You got hybrid or standard, satellite, and hybrid. Standard is the map, like an actual map. Satellite is like a satellite view. You can see there's Central Park down there, good old Manhattan Central Park. Or you can do hybrid, which lays a lot of the labels on top of the satellite. It doesn't do all of them, though. You'll see more detail if you just do the map, the standard view. You can drop a pin. And that little this menu is really handy, so get used to this because it's handy. I use it every now and then. Drop a pin, drops a pin right in the middle of the screen wherever you're zoomed into. And if you tap on that location, it will give you a little bit more information on it, give you the address. You can click on directions to here or from here. There's your little share button up in the top. I told you about the share button. You can create a new contact from a location. So if you want to look up someone's house, they show you where their house is on the map. You can create a new contact from that, and it will automatically record their address in there. Or you can add it to an existing contact. You remove the pin or report a problem. Nice thing about any of these map programs, including Google Maps, is that you can report things that's wrong in the world. And it'll take you through a form, and you can send them more feedback on that, and they will appreciate that. If you want to find where you're at, there's this little compass icon in the bottom left. I'm going to tap it right now. So I'm not going to show you where I am. Sorry. One day, maybe. Anyway, you can tap that, and it will show you where you're at. I'm not going to do it right now. There's also the little compass button up in the corner. If you ever rotated, if you've twisted with your fingers as you're pinching, that compass will show up. You can just tap it, and it will align it to north, and then the compass will disappear. If there's no compass there, you know you're north. But if the compass is there, then it'll show you which direction north is. There's a share button here. So it works just like the... that's weird. I guess it doesn't really do anything, does it? Not sure why that share button's there. Usually I share it from the pin or something. I don't usually hit that share button. You can hit directions, and then you can type in 2 different addresses or drop a pin, and it will bring up a dropped pin. It will also bring up like contacts in here, and you can bookmark locations as well. And then obviously there's also the search feature. You can type in any city, like if you want to go to Rome, Italy. Rome, Italy's great. It will drop a little pin right in the middle of Rome. If you just want to find the Times Square in New York City, you want to get there, okay? Square. There we go, right at the beginning. You tap it. It puts a pin right where it is so you can find your way there. There's also a little blue button that sets up directions if you want to. The other nice thing is let me switch back to standard mode to show you this, is a lot of businesses will show up on here. You'll see little circles, points of interest. And you can click on any of these points of interest, and it will bring you a little more information on it, their phone number, and and their hours, and their if it's a food place, the category, the price. A lot of this information is from Yelp. You can download Yelp on the App Store, but yeah. I think this is going to end up being a 2-parter because there's a lot I still have to talk about, and I haven't even gotten halfway through the apps yet. So we're going to make this a 2-parter. I'm just declaring that right now. But anyway, you can look up different points of interest. So if you're looking for a specific point of interest, then you can actually type it in there. And if you're close to it, usually it will start searching near your location. I can't show you that right now, but yeah. So there's that. Zoom out again, go back to the home screen. We have videos. Now videos, I'm not going to go into detail. Basically, you can buy videos on iTunes. And there's a little bug in here, sorry. And put them on the on your iPad. Just download them right on there. You can also stream anything that you've bought on the iTunes store on here as well. So if you bought some movie, you'll have it pulled up, and you can just tap on it, and it'll start playing. It'll let you play it. I'm not going to go into detail on this either, just because I don't have content to show you right now. But yeah, the Videos app is really cool. I use it quite a bit. Then we go to Notes. Now, Notes will sync up with iCloud, or right now it's with whatever email you set up on here, which I'll show you in a minute. But in iOS 9, which isn't released yet, but will be released in a few months, it syncs up over iCloud just all the time, so you don't have to do it through your email client. But you start writing a note, right now there's none. You start writing a note by hitting there's a little square with a pencil in it, you can see up here in the top right corner. If I tap that, it'll start writing a new note. And I can just start saying, hi, this is a note. Can't type with one hand. Is a note. And, you can write all kinds of notes, and you can even search through them. You can see there's a little search. I can search for all the note apps. And, hey, look, it highlights it right there. It's pretty handy. And then there's your familiar share button and the garbage button if you want to just trash it. And it will prompt you, do you want to delete this? You can say yes. or you can also pull to the right, like pull it to the left, and a little delete button will appear next to the note on the side. So you can also do that. If you have it in portrait view, which is the tall view, you're not going to see the notes on the side. Now it's all screwed up. Sorry about this. I'll switch it back and see if it figures it out. Nope, it's not figuring it out for me. Guess we're going to do a landscape mode the rest of the time. Sorry, guys. I got to figure out my recording equipment here. Anyway, so that's one way you can do it. We'll go back here. There's reminders. Like, this also syncs up with everything. So, with iCloud. So you can set reminders on here. You can set them to a location, tell it to remind you when you get to a certain location or when you leave a certain location. You can set it to a time. I'm not going to go into too much detail, but you can add several different lists, and you can also share them with other people. So if other people have iPads or iPhones and you want to share your reminder list with them, you can. It's great. And the other thing is you can set them with Siri, which I'll show you right at the end. Photo booth. I don't use photo booth a ton, but it's another way you can take pictures. They're kind of fun. It's just a fun little thing. Open it up, push buttons. I'm trying to make this short. I don't want to go into too much detail on some things. Game Center is for, I'm not even going to open this one. It's for games. When you put games on your phone, or I'm sorry, we're on an iPad, not a phone. When you put games on your iPad, you can have it linked to your Game Center account, and it can record achievements and compare scores with other of your friends. You can add friends who have played similar games as you. It's a cool little thing. It's not super important to know about, so if you want to learn more, just tap on it, or you can read up on it in the user guide. Newsstand, they're getting rid of, so I'm not even going to show you. It's basically a folder for news apps, but they're replacing that with a new news app in iOS 9. I'm not even going to talk about that, so don't worry about that one. The iTunes Store and the App Store I'll talk about last. iBooks. iBooks is great. Let's go back to the library. This is where I had the user guide pulled up at the beginning. But the iBooks can hold two types of files. One of them is PDFs, and the other one is EPUB books. You can also purchase books through the store here. I can just go to feature. It has the New York Times list. This is at the bottom. You can see all the New York Times list. And you can buy the books right there. It'll download it. Excuse me. It'll download it onto your iPad, and you can read it on your iPad. Wish I had one to show you right now. If you want me to talk more about books, I can make a separate video just about books. But it will hold PDFs as well. So if someone sends you a PDF and you want to read it, you can put it into iBooks, and iBooks will hold on to it for you. There are different collections, and you can add new collections. Anyway, it's pretty cool. Like I said, push buttons. If you have more questions about this one, put more in the comments. Let me know. I do these videos. I love these videos, and I love telling you about stuff. But I don't know exactly what everybody wants. The only requests I've got this week, just on an aside here, the only request I got this week was some iOS stuff. And I knew a couple people had some iPad questions, so I thought I'd do this one. All right. Before we go into settings is the last thing I want to do. We'll talk about messages. Now, messages doesn't do anything on the iPad unless you have iMessage signed in. So if you have an Apple ID, which you probably will if you have an iPad, you can sign into here and you can send text messages to other people's phones or iPhones or computers or their Macs. They all have iMessage on them, so you can send messages instantly, send pictures or voice recordings or whatnot. If you have an iPhone as well as an iPad, you can set it up so where it does continuity, and it can send text messages for you. So if you start talking about it, I know I'm going to go back to the App Store and iTunes in a minute. You can send text messages through it because it will connect to your iPhone and send the text message through the self-service instead of sending it through iMessage. If you want to text somebody who doesn't have an iPhone or an Apple or an iMessage account. So there's iMessage and messages. And I'll talk about iTunes Store and App Store in a minute. I'm just going to get through these basic ones. And music I'm not even going to cover today. That's a whole... I just don't even want to talk about that one today. There's a lot to talk about with it. We're going to go into Safari, though. Safari is the web browser on your iPad. You can look up websites It even gives you some. These are the default suggestions. We got Apple's website and we got Google's and whatnot, and you can pull them up and scroll around with your finger. And don't be afraid to touch your iPad with your finger because it. I know some people are a little worried about that because you don't want to dirty it up. Usually it's pretty bright though, so you can't see any fingerprints when your iPad's actually turned on. That's my personal feeling. You do what you want. So with Safari, you have the buttons up at the top. You've got the if we look at this top bar, we have the back button and the forward button on the left side, and then we have the little bookmark button, and that pulls up this sidebar here. And the bookmarks, you have bookmarks, you have a reading list, so you can save things for later and come back to them. It's kind of handy. And you also have a shared link, and you can set up RSS feeds. I won't go into detail on that, but basically, if there's like a blog or something you want to follow, you can set it up in here, and they'll show up in there when there's new ones. This is the address bar. When you click on it, it will give you your favorites right there, so you can just tap on one of those, or you can type in and put in the rest of the stuff. If you wanted to delete all the text, there's this convenient little X button on the right side of the address bar. It'll just delete everything. You can also search from here. You don't have to go to Google and then search. You can just search right here. And I think by default it does Google. So if I search for like hats, it will it'll go right to Google. Nope, I don't want to tell you my location. The other convenient thing about Safari is that if you see how I was typing hats, it brings up a Wikipedia result. Which Wikipedia, if you don't know what it is, it's basically an online encyclopedia. So if there's something you want to know about, you can probably type it in here, and it'll prompt you with a little suggestion saying, hey, there's a Wikipedia article on this if you want to learn more about it. If I tapped on that, it'd take me to Wikipedia where I could read about hats. Cool, huh? Oh, this is good. So you see, now that I'm on this Wikipedia page, there's a bunch of lines next to the address up at the top. If I tap on that, it puts it into reader mode. And reader mode will rip out all the extra junk that's on a website and just show you the article, if it's an article. The reading view won't always show up. It usually shows up only on like blogs or web pages or like news sites or Wikipedia, because Wikipedia is reading. But it makes it easier to read because it takes out all the extra stuff. You can shrink the text with these A buttons up at the top or make it bigger. So you can make it pretty big there. And then if you ever want to close it, you can just tap that little that button again, and it'll turn light again, and the reading view will go away. Let's see here. So then we got the refresh button. The refresh button basically reloads the page. It turns into an X when it's loading a page, so you can always hit that X to tell it to stop loading a page. I'm doing it really fast, but you can see that. Then we got the share button, which, you know what the share button does. Actually, I haven't talked about that yet, but I will. Just know you can share it to people with this. You have the plus button, which opens up additional tabs. So you can have multiple tabs open. Like I want to know about hats and I want to know about shoes. Hey, look, there's a shoes.com. Let's go there. So now I can have two windows open and not have to worry about it. And then you have this button with the two squares. It basically zooms out and lets you see all of your windows that you have open. You can just tap on the one you want to go to. If you have a lot of them open, this is really handy. Yeah, so there's Safari in a nutshell. If you want to know more about Safari, mention it in the comments and I'll talk about it. And then we have Mail. Mail is great. I think Apple has said that people like iPads mostly because they like reading their mail on their iPads the most. So, and that may be because they use Mail, but it might also be because they use some third-party app, which I'll talk about in a minute. But you can set up iCloud. If you have an Exchange account, like with your work or something, or online, whatever, you can set it up here. A Gmail account, you can set it up through Google, Yahoo account, AOL. If you have a Hotmail or Microsoft email, you can do it through Outlook, or you can put in your own information. If you tap on these, it'll go into it. I'll talk more about Mail sometime if you want me to. I do want to talk about the App Store and iTunes a little bit more, so I'm going to go to that, and I'm going to go to the settings as well. And then we'll finish up there. There's a couple of other things, but yes, we'll do that. So that's Mail in a nutshell. This is a folder. I'll talk more about this in a minute. There's there are two apps in here, and this is just the default setup when you first get your iPad. One of them is Tips. One of them is Podcasts. Tips are great. They'll tell you how to use your iPad. So look at it if you want to learn more stuff about your iPad. They'll set up notifications as well, and they'll say, "Hey, you want to know more about your iPad? Here's this tip." Podcasts is there's like online radio shows that people record, and they're called podcasts, and you can subscribe to them through this Podcasts app. I'm not going to go into detail like most of the other things. There's tons to talk about with this iPad. It can do so much. They're incredible devices. But I'm not going to talk about this right now. All right. So let's get into iTunes Store and App Store. Now, essentially, the iTunes Store and the App Store are the same store. Okay? So if you have an Apple ID, you sign into one, you sign into the other. It's the same with the iBook Store as well. It's all from the iTunes Store, the quote-unquote iTunes Store that overlays everything. The only difference is between the iTunes Store, App Store, and the iBooks is that iTunes Store has everything except for what the other ones have. App Store just has apps for your iPad, and iBooks just has the books. So, and you saw that a second ago. So if you go into the iTunes Store, and I'll just show you real quick because I don't want to talk too long on this. But by default, it goes to music. But you can go to movies, or I'll let that load just so you see what it looks like. If it loads. It might not. There we go. You can go to movies and see movies, and you can buy movies. Or you can go to TV shows, and there's different TV shows out there. You can look at the top charts. Lots of different things. Songs, albums, music videos. You see up at the top it says music, movies, and TV. I'm not going to go through all of it. Genius is a way for it to suggest new things to you. It's going to prompt me to log in and stuff. It's not going to work for me right now, but it's kind of cool. So, like I said, push buttons. Try to figure it out on your own or if you want, you can also ask me, and I will gladly talk about it. And then there's the purchased, which I'm not signed in right now, so it won't show me. But it'll show you everything you've purchased on iTunes. And the nice thing about iTunes is that when you purchase something, it's on your account. You always have it. Even if they remove it off, at least with apps. I don't know about music or movies or TV shows. But if they take it off, they'll still let you download it. They have it archived on there. All right, so I hope that's not getting all wonky on me. So let's go to the App Store now. The App Store is extremely essential. There are so many wonderful third-party apps in here. And so you should check it out because there's a lot of people will use a third-party app instead of Apple's default apps. So if you don't like Apple's default apps, chances are there's probably another app out there you'll like. And so you ought to come here and search for something. For example, like some people don't like mail very much. So if I search for like mail on here, so I get a bunch of stuff here. I get like Gmail. I get these different mail for Outlook or Yahoo Mail or Microsoft Outlook down here, or Mailbox is a really good app. I used to use that one. Dropbox makes that one. If you don't know who Dropbox is, ask me later. After that, it starts kind of getting a little blurred, so you don't really want to go too far. But usually the top ones are close to what you search for. But there's lots of things out there besides Apple's default apps. Now, Apple's default apps will sync with iCloud and do a lot of the back-end services for you. But sometimes their apps just don't do the trick. So it's up to you. You push buttons and see what you like. You learn what you like, and that's the best thing to do. So I showed you the search section. You can go to the featured page down at the bottom. There's a little featured button, and you can see all of the apps that Apple is featuring on their store. Developers really like to get their apps on the featured page because it means that more people are going to see them. So as you can see here, some of these have prices on them, and some of them do not. The ones that don't are free. You can download them right onto your iPad, no problem. The ones that have prices on them, you can pay for, and then you'll always have it. Yeah, and my wife just sent me a message telling me this is a lot of information, and I completely agree with her. I'll go through each of the basic functionalities of the App Store, and I won't even go into settings right now because I think that's a little too much. A lot of stuff here. The iPad does so much, so just so you know. You can look at top charts, and it will pull up like the top paid apps, the top free apps, the top grossing apps, which grossing is just they're making the most money. see Clash of Clans and Candy Crush Saga, all those good ones. You can go to Explore, which will let you. It will ask you for your location on here, but that just means it's going to look around you and see what people are using near you. So there might be people in your city that are using some sort of app that applies to your city, so it might be handy to know those things. But if not, you can go to all these different categories and see more about it. So, like, if I wanted to know more about, like, sports and stuff, it'll bring up some sports apps. There's a lot of really good apps out there. You can go to Purchase to see all your purchases. And then you can go to Updates. Check this guy pretty often, because Updates is where they download the latest updates to your apps that you install on here. If your app isn't working for some reason, the best thing to do would be to check Updates to see if there's any updates for them. Yeah, it's a little information overload. All right. Finally, I'll just talk about Siri real quick. Siri is a wonderful little digital assistant that you have on here. And you get to it by holding... I can't see my camera. Let me see here. There we go. You hold the home button here, and it'll bring up Siri. There's Siri. Hi, Siri. And see, she says hello back. She recognizes what you say. She does all kinds of cool things. You can have her set alarms for you. You can have her set calendar events. You can have her text people. You can even have her tweet. You can also have her look up sports and stuff. Siri's really cool. If you want to see what she does more, you can look through the user guide. You can comment on it, and I can make a separate video on any of these. There's also this convenient little button here down in the corner, and it will give you more information of things that she can do, and give you like prompts that you can, like things that you can say, like did the Giants win? It'll tell you sports scores. Like, oh, let's look up the Yankees or something. I don't know. Did the Yankees win? Woof! Yankees won quite a bit. So there's a lot of cool stuff. So yeah, that is the iPad. There's a lot I didn't talk about. There's a lot I started to talk about and stopped myself because it was just too much information. I love my iPad, and I hope you like yours. If you want to know how to use it more, I'm sorry I'm looking at my screen. I just realized I was doing that, so forgive me. If you want to know more about it, please comment. I didn't get much comments on my last video, so I had to kind of call people I knew who watched the video and ask them what they wanted to see. But don't be afraid to comment, because I'll read them. I really will, because I'm not very popular right now, so I don't get a lot of comments, which is fine. I don't really care. I'm just making these to help people, but the comments will help me help you. So I can go into more on each of these individual functions. Like my wife told me, this is a lot of information, and I'm sure anybody who's watching this is probably a bit overloaded by it. It's all right. Nice thing is there's this video, and the nice thing is you can request a video to talk more about anything you want to. And the funny thing is I haven't even gone into like the stuff that you can do on the iPhone, which uses a similar system, but there's a couple of other things that it has that the iPad doesn't, and vice versa. And there's some stuff on the iPad that the iPhone doesn't have, like photo booth, for example. That's not a great example. Anyway, finally, just so you know, I skipped the music app, but it plays music on there. I'm just letting you know. That's pretty obvious. Push buttons. Don't be afraid to break it. You're not going to break it. It's pretty durable, unless you hit it with a hammer, which isn't a good idea. Just push buttons on the screen. Try to figure it out. And if you have any questions, please comment. Please subscribe if you want to see these videos more often. I'll know that they're being listened to. Thanks, everyone. You guys are great, and I think we'll call it good tonight. Talk to you later.